Now is the time to give the floor to a leader of great vision, a great commitment for the planet, not only against climate change, but we witness also on international campaigns to keep our oceans clean against marine litter and plastics. So without further ado, let me introduce His Serene Highness Prince Albert II of Monaco. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chancellor, Magnifico Rettore, Your Excellencies, Madam Consul, Madam Balestra, dear Professor Sokuna, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends. It gives me great pleasure today to be with you for the opening of this third edition of the Festival for the Earth. This gathering, initiated by Maria Rebecca Balestra and run in partnership with the Ca' Foscari University here in Venice, is an initiative close to my heart. I'd like to congratulate also Ca' Foscari University for their 150th anniversary and to compliment you on the wonderful achievements of this university, but also the great social engagement projects that you, and community engagement projects that you have, and for your participation in all areas in sustainability and the environment. So thank you very much. This event represents an opportunity to hold discussions with some notable individuals on issues that are key to the preservation of our planet. This year's program also promises to be very exciting, and I want to sincerely thank all those who have agreed to participate. I think it's okay. I think they can hear me. I know I'm not, I don't have the professor's booming voice, but I must admit that another reason why this festival is dear to my heart is that after being held last year in Monaco, it gives me a great opportunity, sadly all too rare, to return to Venice, this unique and wonderful yet fragile city. The fragility of Venice, this wonderful achievement of man's skill, now under threat, must be one of the most poignant signals of the destiny of our planet and our civilization. Here in Venice, it is the focal point of contradictions that confront us everywhere. Contradictions of a world whose continual growth, so rich in benefits for so many of our contemporaries, comes into collision with the constraints of an environment that unfortunately cannot keep up with the pace of human population, its habits, its requirements, and its aspirations. Of course, the heritage that we need to protect here is anything but natural, since it is the products of man's skills over centuries. But this heritage is scarce, as are our planet's resources that we used to think were infinite. This heritage reminds us, I think, above all, that nothing that we do is possible without a preservation pact between man and nature. This lagoon, background to one of mankind's most beautiful constructions, is the most vivid testimony to this. That is why this festival, by bringing us face to face with these key issues, takes on a very special meaning here. A gravity laden with significance, a valuable tangibility. Very often, in fact, the planet's problems are compounded by the difficulty we have in seeing them. For as long as damage remains invisible to our eyes, we struggle to mobilize ourselves despite the warnings by scientists. And even when this damage impacts on us, as for instance during the dreadful fires that have just ravaged California, we find it hard to understand what it represents. Therefore, this vigilance that is so often absent is our first imperative. Vigilance with regard to the phenomena that we observe firsthand, such as these deadly fires that I just mentioned, but I can mention other natural disasters that have occurred in the last few months. They come in the wake of so many tragic events. How could we ignore them or pretend to think, as some do, that they are random coincidences? In recent months, there have been other deadly fires in Portugal, Spain, Greece. There has been flooding, which again has had tragic consequences in Japan and India. There have been unprecedented heat waves in Canada and Scandinavia. There have been record high temperatures all over the planet, in Oman, Baku, in the north of the United Kingdom and Scotland, and in Algeria. For years, there has been an alarming melting of the ice from the Arctic to the Himalayas via the glaciers of the mountains in Europe and in America, causing an increase in sea levels, which will soon make entire regions uninhabitable, but will engulf others and will disrupt many ecosystems. All over the world, there are ecosystems showing signs of decline, some of which are especially fragile and precious, such as coral reefs. But many species are under threat, some from climate change, some quite simply from various kinds of damages inflicted by our civilization, whether it is pollution, deforestation, or of course the excessive use of pesticides. We have all seen these phenomena, and above all, we must understand how far they all result, essentially from one and the same cause, which is human development. We must listen to those who for decades now have been putting out warnings, establishing casualties, deciphering different phenomena that are barely perceptible or even difficult to understand. I'm, of course, talking about scientists. We have just heard from Professor Sakuna, and we will have the pleasure of listening to Professor Tapper, President of the International Association of Urban Climate, and deeply involved in IPCC Works, an institution that plays a vital role in this respect. And I want to extend to both of them my warmest greetings and thanks. Without the IPCC, without its meticulous, comprehensive, accurate, and systematic work, we would today be severely lacking in knowledge, data, in the face of major but complex shifts that are affecting our planet. This is why I, with my foundation, have the pleasure of supporting, and the government of Monaco, support the IPCC as actively as possible in all international fora. This is why my foundation is pleased to work with this institution on different levels, and you mentioned them, Professor, with the scholarship program. And, but also, we were pleased to lead the project for an interim report on the oceans and the cryosphere, which is currently in preparation and which will be, I think, finished for its presentation in Monaco next year. The IPCC is also a tool to promote understanding, a tool to promote action that involves all of us, and that is why we are here attending this event. There is, of course, action taken by states and actions taken by multilateral institutions. That action is fundamental. It mobilizes different governments, and it mobilizes, of course, my government, for which I've set a target to make the Principality of Monaco carbon neutral by the year 2050. It mobilizes my foundation, which works in partnerships with other NGOs, as well as with other multilateral institutions. And it also mobilizes my time because for more than 25 years now, I've been participating in most of the international summits devoted to environmental issues. But we now know that this political action is not enough. It's not enough because the world political situation today is leading many countries to focus on short-term interests, to pander to the illusions of worried populations who are experiencing more palpable economic or identity problems. I'm, of course, thinking particularly of the United States' withdrawal from the Paris Agreement. Obviously, we can all regret this decision, although we can also note with pleasure of the continuing commitments by many of mayors of large cities in the United States and of most of the states. There are also in Europe and beyond some political leaders who ostensibly turned their backs on environmental issues. These leaders, we note with regret, pervert the issues of nature preservation, seeking to pit the legitimate interests of those alive today against our inalienable duty to those who will be alive in the future. But there's another reason why political action is not enough, and that is because the dangers we must confront are too immense to be tackled with only one type of tool. The response being called for by the issue of climate change or by the damage to biodiversity lies inside each and every one of us. It concerns our most tangible and most immediate choices. It depends on the ways in which we consume, travel, feed ourselves, and it calls for invention, it calls for innovation, experimentation, and the development of new models at every level. Therefore, it requires, alongside and in addition to government action, mobilization that must involve whole societies. That's all the more true in the view of the fact that our states are faced with profound changes in a globalized world and in the emergence of complementary stakeholders. Businesses have more and more power, and citizens themselves are seeking to exert greater influence. We must therefore mobilize the strength of the former and leverage the commitment of the latter. I could add that our states, at the same time, are in many cases facing financial difficulties that prevent them from taking the ambitious and courageous steps necessary for the preservation of our environment. We must guard against thinking only in terms of costs, whilst energy transition and moving away from the carbon economy does indeed require significant investment. It also offers vast potentials for growth. That's why the mobilization, if you like, of the business community is essential, and it is, of course, a very productive way of doing it. Companies must take advantage of this new industrial revolution where the cards are being reshuffled and the most innovative new development opportunities are opening up. I'm, of course, thinking about prospects offered by renewable energies, which promise to give entire regions access to new and potentially infinite sources. For many local economic stakeholders, of course, solar power, wind power, thermal energy, and marine energy offer the promise of new production models and methods and new profitability. I'm also thinking about the promotion of biodiversity, which must also be contemplated from a positive perspective, whether on land or in the ocean. It has already been demonstrated by many examples around the world that this biodiversity, which we have for so long viewed as a variable or insignificant value, is actually a vitally important source for economic vitality. Economic potential to reinvent our model, potential, of course, for individuals and civil societies to reassert control over their lives. This potential also lies at the heart of this festival, which aims to address environmental issues in a positive way, especially by opening up to artistic approaches, and which I believe are essential in order to fully embrace the breadth and depth of the issues concerned. This great transition that we need to achieve cannot be limited to technical issues. It is also about our ways of life. It is about our most personal and everyday choices that we make. It's also about our ability to take stock of the global situation of our world, of those who live in it and those who will live in it after us. It is about our generosity. It is about our commitment. It is about our responsibility. It touches our deepest identity, our values of what we are and what we want to be. That is why this transition sometimes leaves us in a helpless way. It worries us and frightens us. And yet, as Leonardo da Vinci once wrote, no need to introduce him, one of the most famous and talented children of this country, and we will be celebrating the 500th anniversary of his death in the coming months. So he once said, "Fear comes to life faster than anything else." That is why it is important to confront it and to master it. That's why it's so valuable for us to have these meetings like we are having today and to discuss about these issues. And that's why I wanted to thank you all for your presence here and for your commitment to the future of our planet. Thank you very much.